Every single year, more than 100 million people pass through one airport in Atlanta, more than any other airport anywhere on Earth. And it's still not big enough. One of its concourses was built decades ago, back in the 1980s, for small regional planes. Today, the walking space between its gates is less than 20 feet wide. So the airport is doing something almost nobody has ever attempted at this scale before: rebuilding a live concourse, gate by gate, piece by piece, without ever shutting it down. So how do you expand the world's busiest airport while it's still running at full capacity every single day without a break? Hartsfield-Jackson isn't just Atlanta's airport. It's a hub that connects the entire Southeast to the rest of the world, and one of the busiest passenger crossroads on the planet. The city's aviation department has committed to a capital improvement program worth roughly $20 billion called ATL Next. But almost all of that program depends on one project succeeding first: a $1.4 billion widening of Concourse D, the airport's narrowest and most outdated terminal. Every other upgrade, new runways, better cargo capacity, faster trains between terminals, assumes this bottleneck gets solved. If Concourse D doesn't work, none of it matters as much. If Atlanta gets this right, it protects its position as the busiest, most connected airport in the world for another generation. If it falls behind, delays ripple outward, not just for Atlanta, but for every connecting flight in every corner of the country that depends on this single hub. To understand why Concourse D became the problem, we need to go back to how it was built in the first place. It went up in 1980, designed for an era of smaller regional jets making short hops around the Southeast. Back then, that made sense. But air travel didn't stay small. Today's fleet mix includes much larger aircraft, Boeing 737s and Airbus A321s, that can carry up to 200 passengers depending on configuration. Concourse D never grew to match. Today it's only 60 feet wide, nearly 2/3 narrower than the airport's other concourses. Most of that width isn't even usable. Once you account for gates, seating, and restaurants, less than 20 feet is left for people to actually walk through. Picture a normal afternoon. A passenger with 12 minutes to make a connecting flight isn't walking, they're shuffling. A crowded gate area spills into the walkway. A beverage cart is pinned against the wall. This is the kind of moment Concourse D was never built to handle. And as Atlanta's passenger numbers kept climbing year after year, it stopped being the exception and started being routine. Here's the challenge. You can't just close a concourse serving a hub airport and rebuild it from scratch. Our airline partners aren't interested in shutting down the entire concourse, said Edmund Ramos, Vice President of Aviation Delivery at WSP, the firm managing the project. Shutting it down, even temporarily, would strand dozens of daily flights and ripple across the entire national air network, since Atlanta connects so many routes through this single hub. So every phase has to happen while planes keep landing, gates keep boarding, and passengers keep moving through the exact space under construction. Then there's the physical challenge underneath that constraint. Widening a concourse from 60 feet to nearly 100 feet means adding entirely new structure onto a building that was never designed for it, without ever taking the old structure offline. That means construction crews can't use the airport's own active runways and taxiways during daylight hours. So, construction has to happen in the tiny windows when the airport slows down. And even then, every single move has to be coordinated with air traffic control, since a delayed module could block a taxiway flight's need clear by sunrise. And there's still one more constraint stacked on top: cost. At $1.4 billion for a single concourse, every phase has to be sequenced carefully enough that the money keeps the project moving without ever disrupting the revenue the airport depends on to keep paying for it. So the airport's engineers turned to a method almost never used at this scale: building the concourse somewhere else and moving it in already finished. Airports had actually tried a version of this before. Dallas-Fort Worth pioneered large-scale modular construction back in 2022, rebuilding gates while flights kept running. Atlanta studied that playbook, then pushed it further than anyone had before. About a mile from Concourse D, crews built a 6-acre modular construction yard right on airport property. There, steel sections weighing up to 700 tons each are assembled off to the side, away from live gates and runways. Getting one of those modules into place isn't simple. You don't want it to be unstable. You want 2 support points, explained Mary Williams, a structural engineer on the project, describing why each module rides on 2 separate transporters instead of 1. Otherwise, she said, it would behave like a teeter-totter. Then, once a week, in a window between 1 and 4 in the morning, a module gets lifted onto those transporters and driven more than a mile, straight across active runways and taxiways, before the airport wakes back up. 19 of these modules, one at a time, are being pieced together like building blocks to form the new concourse. The payoff: Concourse D grows from 60 feet wide to 99 feet, gains nearly 300 feet in length, and ends up with 34 modernized gates. Fewer gates than before, but each one built for larger aircraft, pushing peak seating capacity up by roughly 20%. Building an airport concourse while it stays open isn't just an engineering challenge. It's a race against time and money. The modular approach isn't unprecedented. Dallas-Fort Worth proved the method works. But nobody has attempted it at this scale, on the single busiest hub in the world, where a mistake doesn't just delay one gate. It ripples through the entire national air network. Before a single module ever moved, engineers built a 70-page playbook covering every way a transport could go wrong: flat tires, equipment failures, sudden storms. A move only happens if visibility stays above 200 feet and winds stay under 25 miles per hour. And if a module somehow can't reach its final position in time, a demolition crew stands by, ready to dismantle what's already been built just to reopen the runway before morning traffic returns. That's the kind of margin this project runs on every single week for years. The modular approach is already paying off in one way. By keeping Concourse D operational throughout construction instead of closing it down, airlines are saving an estimated $500 million in revenue they would have otherwise lost to shuttered gates. But the project isn't scheduled to finish until 2029. Nearly 5 years after construction began. Every delay pushes that date further out, and every year of delay is a year the airport keeps operating with a bottleneck it's actively trying to fix. If this expansion succeeds, Atlanta keeps its title as the world's busiest, most connected airport, built for the scale of travel the next few decades will demand, not the smaller planes of the 1980s. If it doesn't, the bottleneck doesn't just stay. It gets worse in an airport that has no room left to improvise. Because unlike nearly every other megaproject in America, Atlanta doesn't get to stop. It has to rebuild the busiest airport on Earth, while millions of passengers keep moving through it every single day.